My wife mocked me in public. Then came the 16 missed calls. You guys, I'm still shaking thinking about what happened, and I honestly don't know if I overreacted. Was I wrong for what I did? Tell me if you would have done the same thing, because I'm genuinely asking myself if I pushed things too far, or if I finally just stood up for myself in a situation that had been brewing for far too long. This whole thing started subtly, as these things often do, with little jabs, snide remarks, and a general air of disrespect that slowly but surely eroded my confidence in our relationship. My wife Sarah and I had been together for 10 years, married for 7. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and built a life that, from the outside, looked perfect. We had a beautiful home, 2 amazing kids, a dog, and what seemed like a solid foundation. But underneath all that, there was a growing chasm, carved out by Sarah's increasing tendency to belittle me, especially in front of others. It started innocently enough, a teasing comment about my choice of clothes or a gentle laugh at my expense during a family dinner. I brushed it off, thinking it was just part of our playful dynamic. After all, I loved her and she loved me, right? But these instances grew more frequent, more pointed, and less playful. It became a pattern. We'd be with friends or family, and Sarah would find an opportunity to highlight my flaws, my perceived weaknesses, or something she knew would embarrass me. It felt like she was trying to get a laugh at my expense, to elevate herself by putting me down. My brother David noticed it first. He pulled me aside after a particularly rough Thanksgiving dinner where Sarah had recounted a story about me getting lost on a simple hike, exaggerating my panic and making me sound completely inept. "Dude," he said, his voice low and concerned, "she's really getting to you. Why do you let her talk to you like that?" I shrugged, feigning indifference. It's just Sarah, she doesn't mean anything by it." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. It did mean something. It meant I felt small, disrespected, and increasingly resentful. I tried to talk to her about it a few times. I'd bring it up gently, usually after one of these public incidents. "Hey babe," I'd start. "When you told that story about the hike tonight, it kind of made me feel a bit silly in front of everyone." She'd usually react with indignation. "Oh, stop being so sensitive. It was just a funny story. Lighten up." Or, "I can't believe you're making a big deal out of nothing. You're always so dramatic." Her dismissive responses made me retreat further into myself. I started avoiding social gatherings, making excuses not to go, because I dreaded the inevitable moment when I'd become the butt of her jokes. My friends noticed too, but they were more subtle in their approach. They'd change the subject when Sarah started in on me, or offer a supportive glance. It was clear they saw what was happening, but no one wanted to directly intervene in a marital dispute. The worst part was how it chipped away at my self-esteem. I used to be a confident, outgoing person. Now, I found myself second-guessing everything, constantly worried about making a mistake that Sarah could latch onto and use as ammunition later. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home, and that feeling extended to every aspect of my life. I started withdrawing, becoming quieter, less engaged. The spark that Sarah and I once shared was dimming, replaced by a growing chasm of unspoken resentment and hurt. I tried to focus on the good things, our kids, our shared history, but the negativity cast a long shadow. I convinced myself that maybe I was being too sensitive, that I should just toughen up. But then came the incident that finally broke me. It was our annual summer barbecue at my parents' house. All our family and close friends were there, a large gathering with lots of laughter, good food, and sunshine. I was actually enjoying myself for a while, chatting with my dad and uncle about cars, feeling relatively relaxed. Then Sarah called me over. She was with her sister Lisa and a couple of her friends. They were all laughing, and when I approached, Sarah's eyes sparkled with a malicious glee that I had come to dread. "Oh, here he is," she announced, her voice a little too loud, ensuring everyone nearby would hear. "We were just talking about your little incident at the new gym." I felt a knot form in my stomach. The incident she was referring to happened a few weeks prior. I had just joined a new gym and was trying out a new machine, a leg press. I wasn't familiar with it, and I accidentally loaded way too much weight. When I pushed, my legs locked out and the weight didn't move an inch. I got stuck for a moment, unable to release it, and a personal trainer had to come over and help me. It was embarrassing, sure, but a minor thing. Sarah, however, found it endlessly hilarious. He went to use the leg press, she continued, and apparently thought he was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He loaded up like 5 plates on each side. Can you believe it? She paused for dramatic effect, and her friends giggled. Of course, he couldn't even budge it. He just sat there, legs shaking, completely red-faced, until some muscly guy had to come rescue him. She threw her head back and let out a loud, booming laugh, a laugh that grated on my nerves. Her sister and friends joined in, their laughter echoing hers. It felt like a spotlight was shining on me, highlighting my incompetence, making me feel utterly humiliated. My face burned, and I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. This wasn't playful banter. This was public mockery. This was her actively trying to make me look foolish to entertain her audience. And the worst part, she knew how much it bothered me when she did this. She knew I hated being the punchline. I looked around, desperate for an escape. My parents were across the yard talking to neighbors. My brother was busy grilling. No one was going to swoop in and save me. I was on my own. I tried to force a smile, tried to pretend it didn't bother me, but I could feel my composure crumbling. Yeah, it was pretty funny, I mumbled, trying to laugh along weakly, but Sarah wasn't done. Oh, it gets better, she exclaimed, wiping a tear from her eye. He swore he was just testing the waters with the weight, but I know better. He was trying to impress everyone, and he just ended up looking like a complete idiot. More laughter. I could feel my anger simmering. It was a slow burn, but it was getting hotter and hotter. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th time. This was a pattern of systematic public humiliation, and I was finally at my breaking point. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not the loving wife I married, but a woman who seemed to revel in making me feel small. And that's when something inside me snapped. I don't know what it was exactly, but it was like a switch flipped. All the years of passive acceptance, of biting my tongue, of trying to be the good husband who could take a joke, dissolved in an instant. I realized that my silent suffering wasn't making her stop. It was emboldening her. It was telling her that this behavior was acceptable. And it wasn't. You know what, Sarah? I said, my voice surprisingly calm, though my hands were shaking. The laughter died down a bit, replaced by a ripple of curiosity. Everyone looked at me. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. She could probably hear the shift in my tone. What? She asked, a hint of annoyance in her voice. What is it? You find that story hilarious, don't you? I continued, my gaze steady on hers. You love making me look like an idiot in front of everyone. It makes you feel good, doesn't it? Her eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I'm just telling a funny story. No, I said, my voice gaining strength. You're not telling a funny story. You're making fun of me. You're humiliating me. And you do it all the time. The air around us seemed to thicken. Her sister, Lisa, looked uncomfortable. Sarah's friends exchanged nervous glances. Sarah herself looked genuinely surprised, as if I had suddenly grown a second head. She probably wasn't used to me pushing back, especially not like this. I can't believe you're doing this right now, she hissed, her voice low and furious. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene, I retorted, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You make a scene every time you open your mouth and decide to make me your punching bag. Every time you chip away at my confidence, every time you turn me into a joke for your entertainment. My voice was rising now, and I knew a few more heads were turning in our direction. My parents were definitely looking over. My brother had paused his grilling and was staring intently. Do you have any idea how that feels, Sarah? I pressed on, ignoring the growing discomfort of our audience. Do you have any idea what it's like to constantly wonder when the next jab is coming? To dread social events because I know I'm going to be the target of your cruelty? Sarah's face was a mask of shock and anger. Cruelty? You're being ridiculous. Am I? I challenged. Because I remember you telling everyone about my fear of heights when we went zip-lining, even though I specifically asked you not to. I remember you making fun of my cooking in front of my own mother, who taught me to cook. I remember you telling your friends how I cried during that sad movie, even though it was a private moment between us. And those are just the examples from the last 6 months. I paused, taking a deep breath. My chest was heaving, but a strange sense of liberation was washing over me. It felt good to finally say all the things I had kept bottled up for so long. You think it's funny, I concluded, my voice dropping to a harsh whisper, but it's not. It's cruel, it's disrespectful, and I'm done with it. Sarah was absolutely livid. Her face was bright red, her eyes blazing. How dare you speak to me like that, in front of everyone, she spat, her voice trembling with rage. You are embarrassing yourself. No, Sarah, I said, shaking my head. You embarrassed me over and over again, and now I'm just holding up a mirror to your behavior. I turned to the small group that had been listening to her mock me. Is it funny to you guys? I asked, my voice calm again but with an edge. Is it hilarious to watch someone you know get constantly belittled by their own spouse? Sarah's sister, Lisa, looked away, clearly uncomfortable. Sarah's friends mumbled something inaudible and started backing away. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Then I turned back to Sarah, a decision crystallizing in my mind. I can't do this anymore, Sarah, I said, my voice tired but resolute. I can't keep being the punchline. I can't keep taking your disrespect. I'm done. And with that, I turned around and walked away. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I didn't look back. I just walked straight to my car, got in, and drove away, leaving a stunned silence and a very angry Sarah behind. The drive home was a blur. I was shaking, a mix of adrenaline, anger, and a strange sense of relief coursing through me. I didn't know what I had just done, but I knew I couldn't have stayed another second. My phone started ringing almost immediately. It was Sarah. I ignored it. Then it rang again, and again, and again. The calls kept coming, one after another, an incessant barrage of notifications. I watched the screen, seeing her name flash, knowing she was furious. My brother called, my mom called, even Lisa called. I ignored them all. I just needed space. I needed to process. I needed to figure out what came next. When I finally pulled into my driveway, my phone was still buzzing. I checked the call log. 16 missed calls, all from Sarah. It was a clear indication of how angry and probably bewildered she was, but I wasn't ready to talk. I wasn't ready to face her anger, her accusations, or her attempts to turn this back on me. I walked into the quiet house. The kids weren't home yet. They were still at my parents'. The silence was deafening. I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall, replaying the entire confrontation in my head. Did I go too far? Was I too harsh? Should I have handled it differently? The self-doubt started to creep in, whispering its insidious questions. But then I remembered the feeling of humiliation, the burning shame, the years of feeling small and insignificant. And the self-doubt receded, replaced by a renewed sense of conviction. No, I didn't go too far. I stood up for myself. I finally drew a line. This wasn't about one funny story at a barbecue. This was about a pattern of behavior that had become toxic and unbearable. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have walked away? Would you have confronted her publicly or tried to have a calmer discussion later? What do you think was the right move? After about an hour of sitting in silence, my phone rang again. This time it was David, my brother. I hesitated, then answered. Dude, what the hell just happened? He asked, his voice a mix of bewilderment and concern. Sarah is absolutely furious. Mom and Dad are asking what's going on. I explained everything to him, the years of microaggressions, the public mockery, the slow erosion of my self-worth, and finally, the breaking point at the barbecue. I told him how I felt, how I had finally just snapped. David listened patiently, and when I finished, there was a long silence. Man, he said softly, I always saw it, you know. I hated how she talked to you. I just never knew how to say anything without making it worse. So, was I wrong? I asked. My voice vulnerable. Did I overreact? No, he said firmly. No, you absolutely did not. She's been doing that to you for years. It's not right. You had every right to stand up for yourself. It was probably long overdue, honestly. His words were a balm to my raw nerves. Hearing him validate my feelings confirmed that I wasn't just being sensitive, was exactly what I needed. So what now? I asked, feeling a fresh wave of anxiety. I don't know, David admitted. But you can't go back to how things were. Something has to change. We talked for a bit longer, and he offered to pick up the kids from my parents' house so I could have more time to myself before facing Sarah. I was grateful for his support. A few hours later, around dinner time, Sarah arrived home. I heard her car pull into the driveway and my heart started pounding. This was it, the real confrontation. I braced myself. She walked in, her face still flushed with anger, her eyes narrowed. She didn't say a word, just slammed her purse down on the kitchen counter and stared at me, daring me to speak. "Sarah," I started, trying to keep my voice even. "We need to talk." "Oh, you want to talk now?" she scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "After you publicly humiliated me in front of my family and friends, after you drove off like a child." "I publicly humiliated you," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping me. "You've been publicly humiliating me for years." I finally had enough. "You're being completely unreasonable," she yelled, her voice rising. "It was a joke, a harmless story. You always overreact." "It wasn't harmless, Sarah," I said, standing up. "It was cruel, and it wasn't just that one story. It's been a pattern, a constant stream of jabs and insults designed to make me feel small. Do you honestly think I enjoy being the butt of your jokes all the time?" "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, crossing her arms defensively. "I'm just being myself. You're too sensitive." "That's your go-to, isn't it?" I challenged. "You're too sensitive. It's how you dismiss my feelings, how you invalidate my experiences. Well, I'm done being too sensitive. I'm done letting you walk all over me." The argument escalated. We went back and forth, rehashing old hurts, old grievances. She accused me of being dramatic, of ruining the barbecue, of overreacting. I accused her of being disrespectful, of being a bully, of chipping away at my self-worth. It was a raw, painful conversation, full of tears and raised voices. At one point, she actually mocked my tears, further fueling my anger. "Oh, here come the waterworks," she sneered. "Always the victim, aren't you?" That was the final straw. I looked at her, truly seeing the cruelty in her eyes, the complete lack of empathy. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just a misunderstanding or a bad patch. This was a fundamental problem in our relationship, a deep-seated disrespect that she either couldn't or wouldn't acknowledge. "You know what, Sarah?" I said, my voice eerily calm, cutting through the shouting. "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly disrespected, constantly made to feel like a joke. I can't." She stopped, her mouth agape. She probably expected me to back down, to apologize, to try and fix things. She probably didn't expect me to say those words. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, her anger momentarily replaced by a flicker of fear. "I'm talking about us," I clarified, my voice steady. "I'm talking about a separation. I think we need some time apart to figure out if this can even be salvaged, because right now I don't see how it can." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Sarah's face went pale. The fury in her eyes was replaced by shock, then a dawning realization. The argument stopped dead. She didn't know what to say. I think she finally understood the gravity of the situation, that this wasn't just another fight. This was me finally taking a stand. The next few weeks were incredibly difficult. I moved into a spare bedroom and we started sleeping separately. We began therapy, reluctantly on her part, to try and navigate the wreckage of our relationship. It was a slow, painful process. In therapy, the patterns of her behavior were laid bare. The therapist helped her see how her jokes were actually deeply hurtful and abusive. It took a long time and a lot of painful introspection for Sarah to even begin to acknowledge the impact of her actions. She cried, she apologized, she even showed some genuine remorse. She started trying to change, to be more mindful of her words, to validate my feelings instead of dismissing them. It wasn't perfect and there were setbacks, but there was a genuine effort. And me. I learned to set boundaries, to speak up for myself, and to refuse to accept disrespect. I realized that my silence had enabled her behavior, and that standing up for myself, even if it meant a painful confrontation, was ultimately an act of self-preservation. It's been several months now. We're still together, still in therapy, still working on it. It's a long road, and I don't know what the future holds for us. But what I do know is that I will never again allow myself to be treated with such disrespect. That public confrontation, that moment I finally snapped, was a turning point. It was the moment I reclaimed my self-worth, and that, I believe, was worth every bit of discomfort and drama. I just hope we can rebuild something stronger, something healthier from the ashes of what was. It's a daily effort, but I'm hopeful. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing by finally standing up for myself. Subscribe for more stories like this where people finally take control of their lives. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. Do you think I was too harsh? Was it justified? I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspectives. I'll see you all in the next story.